Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this interview with Ivo Mönnink, the CEO of Sensys. Ivo, a very, very intense quarter for your company, the Q3 of this year. How would you describe the overall picture?
Yeah, the overall picture is that with the huge win in Sweden of the Trafikverket contract, I'll talk about it a bit more. We have really secured the business for the next future for this company in Sweden. On top, as you know, we won a contract in the Netherlands, also one of our home markets, and also there we have secured the future business in one of the home markets. So looking forward, we have a very stable base of revenue in two of the most important markets to us. That's an important thing. The other important thing to mention is that we are investing in our business in the United States. As I mentioned before, we have introduced a new business plan there. We are executing on a business plan, meaning we're investing. And that looks, rather promising. So we are looking at in the next 3 years, or maybe a little bit longer than that, doubling. Let me put this right. Actually, tripling the business in the United States. So that is something I'm looking forward to. That's great. And then, our financial position is very, very solid. We have a free available cash amount of 177 million. So both financially and from a future business perspective, I think it's a very, very good quarter for us.
Excellent. Your order intake was very strong. On a rolling 12-month base, it was actually 543 million SEK, and that is excluding the large order to Trafikverket. We will get back to that later. Which are the main drivers behind this strong order intake? You already mentioned Netherlands, but I think more on a broader perspective, what do you see in the market? And do you feel that you're gaining ground relative to competition?
I think what we see here is that there is some large contracts from the past that are in there and that we're executing on. We have talked already about the Netherlands and now Trafikverket also being added to that, which is not even in here. But that's actually driving it for the most part. On the other hand, we are also seeing now, for instance, in Australia, a huge contract on our TRaaS business there. So, which I find very interesting because the most important business we look at is not so much the system business. We like it, and it's definitely very important for us. But the TRaaS business and how that is developing for us is the key business to look at, and there we're doing really well. So. TRaaS business is up in the quarter by 16%, and in the quarter represents 80% of our sales. And we are on track, therefore, on our plan by 2025 to be at 600 million TRaaS business. So TRaaS for us is a focus area, and there we are, with the new order in Australia, expanding outside of the US, which I think it's a huge step for the company. And also in the US, with this new sales force, we'll be adding new business going forward. So, yeah, that's the trend I'm seeing. So more TRaaS, but also larger contracts coming in the future. I already mentioned that we have been pausing on the request of the customer, our system sales business in Saudi, and they're doing that because they received 950 of the in vehicles. That's rather a large amount of systems to be operated. So they are facing issues with the operators and with the vehicles. So they asked for a pause. But at the same time, and that's the real interesting part, they're looking at us as a very reliable supplier. So we're now invited to also do concept testing on new fixed systems. So I can imagine that going forward, we might actually see some traction there as well.
You mentioned the Saudi contract. It was, I think, a little bit of a surprise to a lot of us and for you as well, as you say. How confident are you that this will turn into fixed equipment business? Is it more of an option, or do you feel that this is actually going to probably be the case? We can never be sure, of course.
No, we can never be sure, but we are a very close cooperation with this customer, and they like us for our delivery performance. They return to us a very good payment performance. So 90% of the payments have been completed now on what we delivered so far, so which is excellent for a Saudi customer. And as I said, they like us, so we're doing the testing, and we also have a solution. Excuse me. They're actually looking for. So this could very well happen, Örjan, without, as you said, any guarantees, because you don't know.
Okay. The order to Trafikverket. It is, of course, a spectacular a spectacular event. What was the key drivers behind gaining this order? Because we all know that Trafikverket is not an easy customer to convince, given the long experience they have in traffic surveillance systems.
Yeah, maybe I would say there's three aspects. First of all, it's the teams, our own development teams in Jönköping, in Sweden, and Haarlem, the Netherlands, working together to develop a new technical solution. And so it's the development teams working together, aspect number one. The second thing is they have been working on the execution, which the new embedded software platform, which we call Flux. And that is it's new technology. It's very flexible, and it allows various sensor technologies to be incorporated in this new platform. And we actually use that platform first for Trafikverket, and that enabled us to build something which very high quality and low cost, which could not be met by any of our competitors. So we won this tender by far. Not by a small amount, but by far. And that's, I think, a big step forward for the company. All of our competitors have been looking at this tender. It is the largest in the industry. And guess what? We won it, and by far. So I think those components are the ones that have driven the wind into our direction. So good teamwork, new technology, and therefore also very competitive pricing.
It's interesting. I mentioned it. Would you describe this as being really getting the synergies out of the Dutch and Swedish operations in a better way? And also, is it possible to capitalize on this investment for other upcoming orders, you think?
Well, both would be yes. So teams working together is always a challenge, and I think we captured that really well now. So we're in a good place for the future. And this new technology, this new embedded software platform, is built in such a way that we can, let's say, roll it out more quicker and more flexible towards new customers going forward. I have to say that in the pipeline, there's still a lot of contracts which are based on S&T series, sort of former platforms. But you can imagine that going forward, we will have more Flux solutions in the market. And as I said, it is cost effective and it's highly flexible. So it also prepares customers to incorporate new sensor technologies going forward. And that might give us an edge with a lot of customers actually.
Would you say that this is a benefit from your relatively big expansion into the IT area? You have employed a lot of developers, etc. Is this a good example of how you can actually get more advanced technology out of your current cost base?
Yeah, absolutely. As you know, we're moving from a box company, a hardware company, into a software company and a services company, and therefore you need to invest in software developers, and we're doing that. So these developers are working on a data platform, which is Pulse, on our back office platform, which is Cilium, but also on our new platform Flux, the embedded software for the hardware. And so yes, these investments are necessarily to make that transition into a software company. and we will definitely benefit from that going forward.
That leads naturally into the next question. Your cost base has increased as a share of revenues, but also in year-on-year terms in the quarter as you're expanding certain activities. There is, to be fair, some FX impacts into this as well because of the currency movements relative to the Swedish krona, which has been very weak. But in which areas do you grow your cost base, and how do you expect to capitalize on that?
Well, we made the promise to the market to deliver 1 billion Swedish krona by 2025. 600 million of that would be the recurring TRaaS business, and an EBITDA of 15% at least. And in order to achieve that, you need to make investments. You can't do the same stuff you've done in the past and then just hope that will have a higher output. So we're investing. We mostly invest in the USA, and probably half of our turnover will come, and a bit more even of the profitability will come from that market. So there's some heavy front-end investments to be expected in the United States. We're already doing that. So we upped our sales force, and more demand creation expenses have been done as well. And you need to do that in order to make sure that with a new proactive sales model, the revenue will start coming in the future, right? So that's a major part of investment. I already talked about the software part. So yes, we're increasing the software teams in order to make the transition to a software company. We have some, let's say, short-term investments, which are, or one-off investments, which are in the new ERP system. We are implementing right now a new ERP system. Before the merger some time ago, we had, various different components and ERP systems around the world. So we actually harmonize that now. It's a huge effort, as you probably well know, and we're in the implementation phase thereof. That will add some costs to our P&L, but that will in the end also deliver synergies. So better collaboration between the people and lower costs overall. So that is something we're looking for. It's an investment with short-term expenses to it. And then certainly also to be mentioned is that we see business potential in Saudi growing. So we have sold the in-vehicles there. We are probably going to be in a good position to sell more business on the fixed side in Saudi. And it really means that you need to be closer to the customer. You need to open an office. You actually have to put people in there. We just did that with the operations director there. And that will grow going further, because once you sell equipment, it needs maintenance, it needs calibrations, it needs repairs. And so you can expect with such a large installed base, and maybe even to grow it in the future, you need to have an operation there. And the good thing about that, it means also more recurring revenues coming from that market. So 3 areas: USA, investing for growth, and Saudi investing for growth, and an ERP system, which is more of a one-off expense line item.
Okay, great. It seems like there are some important investments to be that should be able to generate either revenues or better synergies going forward. Can you say anything on the timing of how the Trafikverket order will feed into your P&L, or is that too early? Do you think?
That's good. Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, the contract was officially signed on the 16th of November, and the day thereafter we started, working with Trafikverket on how to implement this. And there is obviously a first development phase there, and we try to keep that as short as possible, and then you start rolling out the new solution into the market. So it's hard to just pinpoint already now the exact timing thereof, but roughly you can say that we expect 2024 to be the first year where we will be seeing new systems to be sold into the Swedish market, and replacements of the existing installed base as well. So that's the way to look at it.
Do you expect, since this is so material, even if it's spread over many years, it's still being relative to your current size. Do you expect any material changes in your P&L? I think about gross margin or other costs relative to sales based on this order, or do you think that this will kind of more be the cost structure of the contract it's similar to your current operations?
Yeah, I would argue it's pretty similar to what we currently have. And we will definitely work on efficiencies and try to improve the margin. But knowing that this was a very competitive tender, which we had to win, obviously, we don't expect a huge up on the margin side straightforward.
If we raise the perspective, looking a bit further out, where do you expect the next kind of big news flow will stem from? Since Sweden and Netherlands, your principal main home markets, now are pretty well covered for the next few years. Would you think the crystal ball is showing when it comes to news flow going forward?
Sorry, I didn't really. What's the next big market for us? I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Saying, right?
And in terms of news flow and
Okay.
What do you think that we will see from Sensys Gatso if we look further out?
Well, I expect some news flows coming from the United States. Obviously, given the investments in demand creation on the sales side, we need to give the team some time to build the pipeline and obviously prepare the ground. But definitely, following that period, you will probably starting to see some of that materialize in new contracts. So that's one area. Don't forget that we are now in the US, which is our largest market, basically. We are only there with 36 contracts in 11 states. Business can be done in 24 states and even 14,000 cities. So we are a relatively small player compared to the potential the market has for us. So tripling the business there is something which should be very doable, and putting enough investments there should prove to materialize in that potential. So I think we will be seeing some of that growth coming through in what you call news flow. Other part I would expect Saudi to also give us more business, and so that's an area. Middle East, maybe I should say in general, is a market where there is growth potential for us. Australia has set the first step towards basically making a copy of the US model, the TRaaS model as we see it in the US. Maybe not complete, but 80% of that. That's the first Western market where we see the US model, the TRaaS model, being introduced in a effective way. So I can imagine that other states in Australia might be looking at this and say, hey, this is something which could be really interesting for us as well. It could also be picked up in other markets outside of Australia. So I have some. That's not going to happen overnight. Let's face it. But if you talk about a time span of 3 to 5 years, that's not unlikely to happen. And then there is markets where there is no automated traffic enforcement whatsoever. And if that's the case, and we are able to present ourselves with this TRaaS model, where there is no investments for the countries, for the governments, it could be something that is rather interesting to them. So we have, let's say, there are discussions going on in that respect. So it could well be that there's also some news value coming out of that.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ivo. And as we started off a very interesting and intensive quarter, there's a lot of business for you to grab around the world, I would say. And I really appreciate this interview with you. It was great to hear from you, and look forward to hear from you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Örjan. Have a nice day.
Thanks.